Hey guys, BudCat7 here. Okay, it is Friday, May 3rd, 2019, and I want to thank you for visiting the Stonewall Research channel here on YouTube. Thank you very much. I really appreciate it. And if you could hit the like button, guys, that would be great. Alright guys, well, I have a fascinating video for you today about Hopi history and these flying shields and the Star City that has to do with the Hopi history. And, you know, guys, if I can't relate this to my own research and, you know, the things that I sort of specialize in, and I'm just a guy who's reading articles to you, you know, interesting articles and all of that, but, you know, I have to add my 2 cents based on, you know, what I know, what I've studied, what I've researched. And if you're new to the channel, you're a new subscriber, I want to thank you for subscribing. I hope I can provide some interesting material for you. But if you didn't know, I'm a guy who not only does that, you know, I review articles, history, bring certain things to people's attention, you know, stuff I read in books and all sorts of things. So I also have my own research related to on-site research in the Northeast, in New York, in the New England area, with stone walls and effigy serpent walls and some fascinating stuff in the Northeast. And I mean, if you're interested in seeing some of these stone wall constructions, these effigies, split stones, all sorts of things, I mean, you know, I do have that in these videos, and I'm there doing it. Okay, I have another video playlist debunking mainstream history of the stone walls, which is pretty good. People seem to like that. And I also have a playlist of me at Petroglyph National Monument in Albuquerque, New Mexico. We're going to talk about that in a minute, but also me up in Vermont with Jimmy on his property, another, you know, spiritual, sacred site. And, you know, even you know, my screen on my computer is of a split stone with the mouth bottled up with another stone, which is a common theme in the Northeast. And I go through that on one of my videos. So if you haven't checked out these playlists on my channel of my actual research, you can see it there. We're going to talk a little bit about the petroglyphs at Petroglyph National Monument, because that has something to do with this. Okay, so I want to read you this article from 2012 about the flying shields of the Hopi Kachinas, and it's a lot of crossover here. You have some Electric Universe, Thunderbolts Project stuff in here, stuff of my own research having to do with the morphology and phenotypes of people in this area generally of the U.S. here, that there were some people here of a different phenotype in, you know, thousands of years ago who may have been here, may have been survivors. You know, I did a video on the Hohokam survivors, also the people in Galena Canyon, Hovenweep, which is up here, and these places are all related to each other. Lovelock. So, you know, I have my own theory about that, which I went over in my video with Michael Cremo, you know, which, you know, I'm like 99.9% my hypothesis about the Lovelock Cave people and what was going on in the Southwest there was all of these people of a different morphology, a different phenotype, which existed in this area that nobody knows about. And they don't want to tell the story about it because it's a mean story, okay, by the native peoples here. These people were different, okay, as the museum there by Lovelock says, with the Lovelock Cave artifact says these people were slightly more robust. And, you know, that's a euphemism for larger, just nicely put, because they don't want to get involved with too much controversy or anything. But what were these people of a different phenotype and morphology doing over here? You know, the Neanderthals had died off 50,000 years ago, but strangely these weird morphology people existed here, including down here in Phoenix at Snaketown, Arizona, in the Gila River Indian Reservation, where Wetherill and Edwin S. Gladwin found dolichocephalus skulls, naturally formed long skulls, and brachiocephalus skulls, which were artificially deformed cranial skulls. Okay, so, you know, this is what I propose, okay? And that's my hypothesis, and I think it's a good one. I went over it with Michael Cremo on Coast to Coast. You can listen to that video. I have the show posted there. Okay, so let's talk about these flying shields. And here, the Hopi gentleman here has made one on this boulder here to show us what it's like. It has these, you know, sort of triangular things on the side here and legs and all that kind of stuff. And I found a number of those things out there in Petroglyph National Monument. Okay, you can see it in my video. I'm showing one of these shields right here. Okay, and I found a number of them at Petroglyph National Monument. Okay, even more elaborate ones. This one's hard to see because it's too eroded. But I find some other weird things there. So if you haven't seen my playlist there, I mean, they'll show one later on in this. And there was a lot of them there. You can see them in my videos. And I show a lot of other crazy petroglyphs there. Very interesting stuff. And I'm there. I'm doing it, man. Okay. Okay, this is an article by this Gary A. David. And he wrote a book about it. So let me try to get through this because I want to get through another article. And, you know, just to see the, you know, how it relates to my own research, and the things that are said in here are just so, it's a similar story to the Galena people, the Lovelock people, probably the Hovenwe people, probably the Hohokam, and anybody who had this different morphology was involved in this story. It's just a different telling by the Hopi. Okay? Okay, so ancient flying machines have long been a tradition of many cultures across the globe. Venerable Hindu texts such as the Ramayana and the Mahabharata describe airships called vimanas that were used for battle. Among the hieroglyphs on the wall of a 3,000-year-old Egyptian temple at Abydos are depictions of what appear to be modern airplanes and helicopters. Bluestone discs found in caves of the Chinese-Tibetan border tell of an extraterrestrial race called the Tropas, whose spacecraft fell to Earth 12,000 years ago. The Hopi Indian have inhabited three large mesas in northern Arizona for over 1,000 years. Their legends also refer to aerial vehicles, perhaps from Orion. The Hopi may have settled on the three primary mesas in Arizona because they wanted to reflect their star elders constellation of origin. See the Orion Zone by Gary A. Davis. So that's the author's contention. He's obviously one of these UFO guys. And look, guys, whether you believe in UFOs or not, you think it's crazy, it's just poo-pooing this now, and you're just like, oh no, UFOs. Just hold on a second, okay? Because I want to talk about the cargo cult for just a second here, okay? And if you don't know about the cargo cult, you should. If you've been watching the History Channel and Sci-Fi and Ancient Aliens and UFO Files and all this kind of stuff, they always mention this thing, okay? That during World War II, they came across this specific island with these Aboriginal peoples there who had never seen any sort of technology or anything. They were still living in the Stone Age, basically there, and they made an air base there during World War II. The U.S. did. And, after the war was over, they left. And, they didn't come back. So these people actually, created what they called the cargo cult. Okay? And they were waiting for, them to return. And they started worshiping this airplane as this cargo cult. And this, in the minds of the UFO community, is a reason why the people in the past would record things the way they did about UFOs because of what happened here with the cargo cult. Okay, and they always use this reference all the time, but here is where the psyop is, guys, as far as I'm concerned, because I'm always this third party. I'm like the third man out, okay? There's always these sort of two opposing views, no, this, that, okay, but I'm always like a third party out here, and you know, what it is they're jumping to these possibilities. I'm not saying that it's not possible, okay, that, you know, some sort of, you know, extraterrestrials may have visited. I'm not saying that's definitely a possibility, but I'm talking more about probabilities, okay? And it's highly probable, okay? What they're overlooking here, the obvious thing, okay, and they're jumping right to UFOs with this, okay, without sort of noticing what's obvious. And what's obvious here is that the very evidence of this suggests that at any given time in history, a more technically advanced society could exist simultaneously on this world, on this earth, okay, as a highly more advanced, technologically advanced society at the same time. Okay, so there's no reason why this didn't occur any time in the past as well. You see what I'm saying? That's what's obvious about it. Okay? Not that, you know, aliens didn't come down, maybe, I guess, or whatever, but doesn't it seem more likely and more probable that because that this exists on its own, by itself, suggests highly that it now, just in the 1940s, not all that long ago, okay, that highly advanced societies by multiples over these people by comparison, okay, could exist simultaneously on this world. Okay, if it could happen in the 1940s, it could happen any time in the past. Anytime. Okay? So you have to think about it that way. Okay? It doesn't necessarily have to be UFOs. But what I'm thinking about, okay, a more technically advanced, homegrown, not from, you know, Orion or Antares or, you know, wherever. It doesn't matter. Forget about that, okay? Just try to keep it more practical, because that's where I think the psyop goes, man. Because if the History Channel's hawking it and the science fiction, whatever, whoever's hawking it, or the Discovery Channel, I don't care whoever's hawking that, you know, there's something wrong with it. Okay, and my explanation is probably the more practical and pragmatic one. Okay, because there's certainly some evidence for advanced civilizations in the past. Scant evidence, okay, all burned up and melted and all that kind of stuff, but that's because of this. Okay, the arc blasted Earth. Okay, these are the new mountains in the west. We have the old mountains in the east. Not a lot of erosion on these mountains because, see, they're new, right? They're not as eroded as the ones in the east. And what caused all this stuff? Well, if the Earth was arc blasted in the past, sometime like 11 or 12,000 years ago, maybe, okay, like the Thunderbolts project contends, right? Then wouldn't be a lot left to talk about, now would there? Alright, so when you think about this stuff, just keep what I said about the cargo cult, about, you know, more advanced civilizations existing at the same time, every time they refer to, you know, little green men and blah, blah, blah. Just think about it that way. Or don't. I don't care. If you want to think it's aliens and whatnot, go right ahead, okay? You're more than welcome to it. It's possible, I guess. Okay, but I'm sort of sticking to, you know, what narrative I know. Okay? You know, Captain Nemo's Nautilus from Atlantis looked like a spaceship. Okay. Alright, let's read more of this. These magical flying shields, called Patuvata, existed in the Third World, a previous epoch destroyed by an immense flood. This was a time when great cities and trade routes were built and civilization was flourishing. Okay, great city and trade routes like the ones we saw underwater in the Atlantic by the Azores and through the Mediterranean. You see my video, a couple of videos back about the Azores. In an address delivered by the United Nations, Thomas Banyangsha of the Hopi Coyote clan said, quote, "The people invented many machines and conveniences of high technology, some of which have not yet been seen in this age," unquote. We, of course, recognize the startling description as echoing Atlantis. Okay, maybe. Maybe. Okay, I'm definitely down with that, and I think, the people who lived in Atlantis were slightly more robust, if you pardon my euphemism there, slightly more robust people. And when Atlantis crashed and burned, there was all these colonies around the world where these people got trapped. And the Northeast was one of those places, guys, with double-road toothed giants. And, they were the people left over from Atlantis that were stuck there now because there was no more Atlantis. And what did they do? They had to stay there and die off because the whole gravity changed on the planet. As Rupert Sheldrake tells us about when he faced the physicist in the UK there after he was reviewing the data and saw where gravity values changed. And he confronted them on it and they said, "Oh dear, you caught us." Yes, but we fixed it by making it a constant. Ha, yeah, okay. If one legend, the flying shield is associated with Sotuk Nang, the Hopi sky god. Apparently, a devastating flood had destroyed Palakwapi, quote, the Red City to the south, unquote, which is this star city that we're going to talk about, possibly located in the Red Rock country near Sedona, Arizona. Shortly afterwards, a brother named Tiwahamba and his sister Taiwiasinima, who were forgotten in the chaos and left behind by their fleeing parents, set out on a journey to find them. Okay, I've heard all different kinds of stories, similar stories in other tribal legends. In the evening, they decided to make camp. They were just opening their bundle for dinner when they heard a great roar overhead. The children were frightened, wondering what this strange thing could be. The brother held his sister tightly to his breast as a fantastic being descended from the heavens. He was wearing a costume that glittered like ice, metallic spacesuit, while his head and face shone like a star. He spoke, quote, "Do not be afraid. My name is Sotuknang. Because of my sympathy for your plight, I have come to help you. Get on my Patuvata and let us be on our way," unquote. Hopi drawing of the Sai god Sotuknang. Okay, there's the guy right there. Seems to have like a buffalo on his hat there that looks like one of these Grand Tartarian hats there, like we see on the Behestan inscription where they added that ninth guy and he had a wacky hat like that. Maybe a Tartarian guy. I don't know. Just saying. He then took them on his flying shield up into the sky so that he could see for many miles around. Feeding the hungry children ripe melons, he told them that they must have faith in him and his teachings that would later arrive through their dreams. Finally, he landed a short distance from the village in which their mother and father had settled, bid the young ones farewell, and flew up again into the clouds. Forever grateful to the sky god, the brother and the sister walked into the village to be reunited with their parents. Because the Hopis had no such thing as a saucer, flying or otherwise, they named it after the cultural accoutrement closest to that shape, namely the warrior's shield. The word Tuvota specifically signifies this type of shield. Oddly, the concept of war is connected in Hopi ideology with the stars. The use of Tuvota rather than the more common word for disk or circle thus suggests a celestial origin for the Patuvata. Okay, there's another depiction of this fella with a mask of Sotudang. Alright, with kind of a wacky hat. Okay, and like I said, you know, keep it on Earth. Alright? And maybe this more advanced, you know, civilization on the other side of the world that these people didn't know, okay, brought them a little, you know, corn and other things, you know, here, take this stuff, you know, who knows, okay? And they're like, oh, good, these people survived the flood. Maybe we can help them out. And they were like Gene Roddenberry from Star Trek, only not so much. You know, like Captain Kirk once in a while, you know, sort of slips and helps the people out a little bit. And maybe this is what he means about you'll figure it out in your dreams. I'll give you a little advanced information here, and maybe it'll inspire these people to think about more advanced things. I don't know. I'm just saying, you know, this is what's coming out of their history. So these people are retelling a history that goes thousands and thousands of years back to where, you know, you can see in some of my research about the Hohokam, Galena, blah, blah, cave, you know, giants and giant hominids, Homo giganticus video. I go through all of this stuff, and it's really, it all ties together with this stuff, okay? So much evidence of these giant hominids, you know, large hominids being found all over the United States with strange stuff, you know, things that, you know, we don't really understand. So, any case, since the Hopi term Pa means water, Patuvoto possibly refers to the expanding concentric rings in water. This might be a metaphorical description for the way that the peculiar airborne device appeared to function. The related word, patuga or spindle, may also describe the shield's spinning motions. In addition, the prefix pa denotes wonder or awe. For the people of the desert, water equals wonder, but pa perhaps suggests the reaction to this extraordinary means of transportation. Okay? So, look, even, you know, I don't know if you're familiar with Al Fry. Al Fry did like a series of these, like, sort of, you know, alternative research videos back in the 80s on VHS tape. And they're just fascinating. And he does one on 1,000 Nights. And he said in the video, even back then, that, you know, what these people were just, they were trying to describe something that they didn't understand. So they did their best in describing it or whatever it is, but there's no reason why any of those descriptions wouldn't fit some flying vehicle from another civilization on this world, okay? An advanced civilization somewhere on the planet existing simultaneously along with these less advanced cultures. I mean, you see it up through our own history, right? With supposedly Christopher Columbus or whatever, you know, the primitive peoples living here, elsewhere in the world, more advanced civilizations in Europe, in Russia, China, whatever, and less civilization. It's just a common thing. It was that way in the past too, but it could have been to such an extent that it was like the cargo cult people. Okay? You have to think that. You have to think about that seriously. You know, being that there's so much evidence, or, you know, what little we have evidence of it, but there's more than you think of this past, more advanced civilization with this sort of advanced building techniques going from highly advanced down to more primitive for some reason in all these areas of the world, which doesn't make any sense whatsoever. Okay, and they can't explain it, and they don't want to explain it, and they just leave all this stuff under the rug. The whole thing's confused. Things are psyops, you know, aliens, whatever. I just forget about it, okay? Tradition of the flying shield also appears in rock art. The photo below is of an ancient petroglyph or rock carving found near Winslow, Arizona, apparently showing a triangular craft. So this is very much like many of the things I found, okay, when I was doing my research out there in a good photograph there, but similar to that, okay? And you can see that in my playlist there of out me in the Petroglyph National Monument in Albuquerque, New Mexico, okay? And there's the Hopi fellow once again standing next to what, he learned how to draw a thing. And it's so similar to so many things I saw there. My videos there are just, you can see all these petroglyphs. I show you a lot that most people don't get to see, even if they walk down the trail. Some places I could, some other places I could not. Okay, in his book, Mexico Mystique, Frank Waters, a non-Indian expert on the Hopis, writes, on second Mesa near Montgomery, an ancient petroglyph depicts a dome-shaped object resting on an arrow, which represents travel through space, and the head of a Hopi maiden represents pristine purity. As the Hopis believe that other planets are inhabited, this petroglyph represents a patarata, or a flying shield, similar to a flying saucer that came here in the beginning. So now at the end, the sacred ones will arrive from another planet said to be Venus by flying saucers. Many Hopi traditionalists recently have reported seeing flying saucers, all piloted by beings they call Kachinas. Okay, so after this, he goes into a lot of sort of ufology dealing with that area of the United States where he's talking about. Okay, but, I'm not going down that way there. But it was just interesting what he said, and like I said, the possibility of these things being just another